49. That's the staggering number of high-stakes positions filled in a single Senate vote this week. But how did it happen so fast, and what does it truly mean? Let's break down the unprecedented events of May 18, 2026, the political strategy behind it, and what this swift action could mean for President Trump's administration. May 18, 2026, will forever be etched in the annals of American political history, not for a grand speech or a landmark bill, but for a singular, astonishing act of legislative will. What transpired that day in the Senate chamber was nothing short of extraordinary. The Republican majority, acting with swift, almost surgical precision, confirmed an unprecedented 49 of President Donald Trump's civilian nominees. 49. Let that number truly resonate. It wasn't a handful, nor a dozen, it was nearly half a hundred vital positions, from undersecretaries to key agency administrators, all bundled together. How did such an immense slate of nominations, typically subjected to individual hearings and often contentious debate, sail through in one fell swoop? With a single, unyielding party line vote, the Senate Republicans bypassed traditional hurdles, fundamentally reshaping the executive branch's upper echelons in a matter of minutes. What motivated this audacious consolidation of power? And what message did this exceptional display of unity, or perhaps, raw political force, send about the future of confirmations and the balance of power in Washington? The reverberations of that day were only just beginning. The confirmation blitz unfolded not in a slow deliberation, but in a blur of parliamentary might. In a matter of minutes, the sheer number of nominees, 49, vanished from the Senate's backlog. This wasn't accomplished through some grand compromise, but by an audacious, almost brutal, display of procedural leverage. Republican leadership, having meticulously planned their assault, bypassed individual debates by invoking a rarely seen en bloc voting strategy for a vast number of nominees, many of whom Democrats had vehemently opposed. The Democratic minority, accustomed to wielding their power through filibusters, holds, and extended floor debates, found their usual weapons rendered impotent. Every attempt to raise a point of order, to force a separate vote, or even to speak at length about a contentious nominee, was met with a swift, unified Republican motion to table, crushing dissent under the weight of their majority. It was a tactical masterpiece, transforming weeks of potential gridlock into a single, overwhelming vote. But how exactly did they orchestrate such a comprehensive dismantling of the Senate's traditional checks, and what precedent did this swift, procedural coup truly set? The implications for future confirmations were profound. The procedural coup of May 18, 2026, was more than just a legislative maneuver, it was a deliberate reshaping of the federal landscape. But what exactly did this wave of confirmations mean for the nation, and who were these individuals suddenly taking the reins across the vast machinery of government? The answer revealed a breathtaking scope. Republicans didn't just fill a handful of vacancies, they strategically cemented their influence across every critical artery of federal power. From the highest echelons of federal agencies, installing assistant secretaries ready to steer departmental policies, to crucial undersecretaries within departments like Defense, State, and Treasury. They didn't stop there. A significant portion of the nominees comprised federal judges, from district courts to circuit courts, positions carrying lifetime appointments and immense interpretive power. And abroad, a fresh cohort of ambassadors and special envoys were dispatched, poised to redefine America's posture on the global stage. This wasn't merely filling positions, it was an extraordinary consolidation of power, ensuring ideological alignment permeated everything from domestic regulation to international diplomacy. The implications for future administrations, forced to navigate a bureaucracy and judiciary so thoroughly remade in a single afternoon, became terrifyingly clear. How would anyone ever hope to unwind such an entrenched network? The gavel struck, a sound that reverberated far beyond the Senate chamber, sealing a moment of profound, almost audacious, political strategy. Why this particular Monday, May 18, 2026? What calculations drove the Republican leadership to orchestrate such an unprecedented, single-vote confirmation of 49 of President Trump's civilian nominees? It wasn't merely about filling vacancies, it was a masterstroke, a preemptive strike against the shifting sands of future elections. Whispers among the strategists spoke of securing a legacy, of embedding an agenda so deeply it would be virtually impossible to dislodge. The timing hinted at a prescient understanding of the political landscape, a desire to solidify President Trump's vision with an iron grip before any potential change in the legislative or executive branch. The implications, as we now know, were breathtaking. This single afternoon ensured that the Trump agenda, already etched deeply, would now breathe through the very organs of government, permeating everything from domestic regulation to international diplomacy. But how deep would these roots truly run? And what insidious foresight did the Republican leadership possess that demanded such immediate, overwhelming action? The terrifying clarity emerged later. How could anyone ever hope to unwind such an entrenched network, so thoroughly remade in a single, audacious stroke? The air in the Capitol crackled, thick with a palpable fury from the Democratic benches. 49 nominees. In one audacious, party-line vote. The disbelief was instantaneous, quickly hardening into outrage. How, critics demanded, could genuine vetting possibly occur for such a staggering number of critical roles, confirmed with such alarming haste? What corners were cut, what crucial questions deliberately left unasked about the qualifications and allegiances of so many individuals now poised to steer the ship of state? This wasn't just a vote, it was a perceived power grab of breathtaking scope, a strategic installation of an entire network of loyalists designed to reshape the federal landscape for years to come. The process itself, a lightning-fast procedural ambush, became a central point of condemnation, a blatant sidestepping of democratic norms. But beneath the immediate political firestorm, a more unsettling question began to surface, a chilling curiosity loop that would haunt the opposition. What insidious foresight did the Republican leadership possess that demanded such immediate, overwhelming action? What future did they anticipate, requiring the planting of so many deep roots in a single, audacious stroke? The terrifying clarity emerged later. How could anyone ever hope to unwind such an entrenched system, its foundations now irrevocably remade? The gavel strike on May 18, 2026, confirming 49 of President Trump's civilian nominees in a single, audacious stroke, wasn't just a political victory, it was an act of profound, quiet remodeling. These weren't the headline-grabbing cabinet picks, but the undersecretaries, the assistant administrators, the key board members and regulatory chiefs, the operational architects who truly steer the ship. What subtle currents did their appointments unleash across agencies, from environmental protection to financial oversight, from public lands management to judicial administration? Each confirmed individual became a new, deeply planted root in the sprawling bureaucracy. How would their mandate, their interpretation of existing laws, and their vision for the future subtly but irrevocably shift the very bedrock of federal policy? Would future administrations find their efforts to steer agencies in new directions repeatedly thwarted, not by overt obstruction, but by a pervasive, ingrained resistance built into the system itself? The terrifying clarity emerged later. How could anyone ever hope to unwind such an entrenched system, its foundations now irrevocably remade by these 49 strategic deployments? The long shadow of that single vote would stretch for decades, a permanent testament to a masterclass in long-game governance. The May 18, 2026 confirmation of 49 Trump nominees in a single, party-line Senate vote struck many as a seismic event, an act of unprecedented political muscle flexing. Never before, pundits declared, have we witnessed such a brazen, block deployment of personnel. But as the initial shock subsided, a more profound question began to emerge from the echoes of history. Was this truly uncharted territory, or had the Senate played this high-stakes game before, albeit perhaps with less fanfare? Consider the terrifying clarity that emerged later. How anyone ever hoped to unwind such an entrenched system, its foundations now irrevocably remade by these 49 strategic deployments? This wasn't just about filling vacancies, it was a masterclass in long-game governance. Does that sound familiar? The ghost of FDR's court-packing scheme, or even lesser-known but equally strategic senatorial maneuvers from the Gilded Age, whisper through time. Were there moments when a single, concentrated push fundamentally reshaped the administrative state for decades, simply without the glaring media spotlight of today? The sheer scale of 2026 certainly felt distinct, but were its underlying tactics truly new? The answer lies buried in legislative records and forgotten power plays, waiting to reveal if the long shadow of one vote is unique, or merely the latest in a series stretching back further than we dare to imagine.